Trying to do these videos about every second and fourth week of the month. The first couple of videos were pre-recorded. I try and get several of them together so I have time to edit them and then get them out on time. This one kind of got left to the last minute with the school and the holidays coming up and all of that kind of stuff. So if it seems a little rough, that's why. Hopefully they'll get better as we go along. Because the videos are recorded beforehand, I made reference several times to Duncan. This picture is here. He passed away in July, which is very sudden and very upsetting. Yeah, so there's that. What I wanted to do today, I'm trying to lay a foundation so we have a common ground to work off of. As these progress, I plan on doing actual training videos, probably start with some simple behaviors, and then go from there. We can modify them as we go along, and depending on what you ask me to post or to come up with. This is a modified version of a presentation I've done on body language and bite prevention. Most of what I have learned, I shouldn't put it that way, one of the best resources I have come across is Sarah Kulney's, her DVD, The Language of Dogs. I cannot recommend this highly enough. It is just phenomenal, the amount of information in this. There's other stuff out there and it's good too, but this is probably one of, if not the best videos, and I'm not getting paid to say this. I truly believe it. These are available on Sarah's website. You can get it from Towser and Dogwise and several other places. So highly recommend it. So we're going to start with talking about bite prevention. In 2013, there was an article in the Huffington Post which really illustrates the severity of the problem with dog bites. This particular story had happened in California. Like I said, it was about 2013. The child was, I want to say he was killed by the dog. I forget exactly. I'd have to go back and look at it. I said it was a few years ago, which is unfortunate. I've had a lot of discussions. Dogs do not bite for no reason. There's always a reason, whether it's a history, they're uncomfortable, people aren't looking at the signs and the signals and that type of stuff. So hopefully this is going to help with that. But the article, it read, there was all these quotes from the family that said the dog had never shown any signs of aggression, never had any problems with the dogs, couldn't figure out what happened, just playing with them. The next thing happened, the dog bit the child. Later in the article, it says family members told investigators the boy was playing with the dog and may have attempted to climb on its back when the dog attacked. So, again, behavior doesn't happen in a vacuum. There's always a reason for it. So, a couple of statistics. These are a couple of years old, but they haven't changed very much over the years. So, with a small margin of error, but 4.5 million people per year are bitten by dogs. 1 in 5 of those need medical attention. 50% of all children under the age of 12 are bitten by dogs. 82% of the bites happen to children under 15. And 26% of bites occur to the face. If you think about that, it's pretty obvious why people get into a dog's face and they don't like it. They tell someone to back off and snap or bite, and that's what's closest. So this is a really good blog by Robin Bennett, against a few years old. One of the points she makes is to intervene if your child is doing something that is not appropriate to a dog. Don't just marvel in the fact that the dog is so tolerant, because eventually he's going to reach that breaking point. It's kind of like someone comes up to you and starts poking you. just repeatedly, you get a little annoyed, you start to back off a little bit. Okay, that doesn't work, then you might shoo them away. It can slowly progress until you actually hit the person or push them away, or something like that. Dogs are going to be the same way. We shouldn't just say, well, he's a dog, he should tolerate it. No, he's a living, breathing, thinking, sentient being. He shouldn't be put in that situation. Then the dog bites. Who pays the ultimate price? The dog does. Not fair. So, okay, I love this picture. Katie Peeps gave me permission to use this picture of Bella. I love this picture, and we're going to come back to it in a few minutes, but just take a second and look at this picture. Think about how Bella is feeling. Okay. So again, we'll come back to this in just a little bit. So, British Small Animal Veterinary Association put this out. It's a really good guide. They call it the ladder of aggression. It starts at the bottom of the very low-level stress signals that dogs will give: yawning, blinking, lip licking, or nose licking, turnaways, walkaways, creeping ears back, crouching with the tail tucked, lying down with the leg up, or submissive posture as we call it sometimes, stiffening and staring, whale eye, growling, snapping, and then a bite. It doesn't mean each one of these steps is going to happen. They may not happen in order, but this is typically the progression, and from low level to high level. So how can we tell how a dog is feeling? Vocalizations, usually high-pitched, really fast vocalizations, are excited or playful. Lower, deeper growls, barks, those are the ones I'm annoyed, back off, fear me, that type of thing. The tail, posture, and we'll talk about that as we go through the illustrations. Posture, how he's standing, he's leaning forward, leaning back, relaxed, tense body, that type of thing. The ears are very telling. If they're forward, if again they're stiff, if they're back, if they're close to the head, that type of thing. The mouth, or the commissures, or the corner of the mouth, they're pulled tight, or they're puckered, you're relaxed. And then of course the hair, everybody knows piloerection, or the hair standing on end, or if it's laying flat, or that type of thing. And again, we'll talk about these as we go through the illustrations. So, first one, low level, it's what we call lip lick or nose lick. It's when the dog is just licking their lips and they're not thirsty. It's a very low level indication of stress. Yawning, if they're not tired, if they haven't been exerting themselves physically recently, yawn can be a stress reliever. Excuse me. Look away, where the dog won't make eye contact, but is not distracted by something. There's nothing in the environment that's taking his attention away. The dogs are very visually oriented, so they are going to be looking around, but when they just won't look at you. I see this a lot in my training classes, where the dogs are just, after about 30-45 minutes, and we'll get into that maybe in another video, but they just get stressed and they're done, and they won't make eye contact, and they're not going to look at the person. So let's see, and then the creeping or the crouching, and notice the tail is tucked, the ears are back and close to the head, the neck is down, lowered posture, they might have a paw raised, that type of thing. This is where the anxiety or the stress is starting to get at a higher level. The very alert dog, tail is straight out, it's stiff. You have to take into account the shape of the dog's tail. Like a lot of northern breeds, they have the curled tails. May not be as obvious, which brings up another good point, is you can't just look at one element of the dog. You have to look at the whole body posture. Notice the ears are erect and forward, very stiff. Kind of hard to see in this illustration, but the dog's leaning forward a little bit. It's a very alert posture. The whale eye. Think about when you're talking to somebody, for example, you're not looking them directly in the eye usually. I mean, you might look in their eyes for a minute or for a few seconds, but then you look at their mouth, you look at what's on their shirt, maybe something behind them distracts you for a second. You're still listening, but your eyes are constantly moving. When dogs give a hard stare, they're just looking straight at you, and you'll notice the eyes just aren't moving. With the whale eye, we call it that because we see a lot of the white of the eye, but they're still looking straight at you, so it's kind of a sideways and just a really hard stare. They're not looking at your mouth and what's on your shirt and whatever's going on behind you. It's a really hard stare. This is one of the last steps before a bite will occur. And then we get the growl. You notice there's a word for it now, I can't think of it, but the wrinkled nose. Usually you see the piloerection. You can see the dog's leaning forward in this picture. The tail is out and stiff. This is usually the last step, comes right after a whale eye if they're following that ladder of aggression. This dog's about to bite. So, and you have a bite. Now, the more comfortable body postures, you might see an air lick. It looks very similar to a lip lick, but it's licking the air. It's almost like, I want to give you a kiss, but I don't want to actually kiss you and upset you. It's an affiliative behavior. Let's go back to that for a second. Notice the body is very relaxed. The tail is down. It's hanging relaxed. It's not stiff. The ears are relaxed. These illustrations, I have the erect ears, but they're relaxed. They're not pointing forward and really coming towards you, and they're not backing against the head. They're there. They're in their natural relaxed posture or position. The content, you might see the squinting eyes, retracted commissures. Again, a relaxed body, relaxed tail. And of course, everybody recognizes the play bow, where the front end goes down and the back end is up. That's a play posture, another affiliative posture where, oh, I want to play, I'm so excited. The tail's probably wagging, and it's up and erect, but it's wagging. It's a loose wag, and probably a broad wag. It's not a really stiff, short wag. Oh, and of course, the mouth is open, the tongue might be out. Everybody knows this posture. And then the jumping up. We talked about in the last video about dominance and hierarchy. The jumping up is affiliative. It's attention-seeking behavior. The dog knows that we take in our information up here, and they want to interact with us that way. They're trying to get our attention. I'll probably do another video about how to prevent the jumping up and have the dog ask for attention appropriately. But for now, just know that they're just looking for attention when you see this type of behavior. So, and there are exceptions also, but again, we may talk about that in a different video. But the ears are relaxed, the mouth might be open, the tongue might be out, the tail's wagging, that type of things. Okay, so back to Bella. And again, thanks to Katie Peeps for allowing me to use Bella's photo and Lizzie and Rocco's. I'm not sure who the photographer was, but it was one of Lizzie and Rocco's promotions that they're doing Halloween portraits. So thanks to them also for taking this great picture that I've used for several years now in my presentations as a good example. So how was Bella feeling? At first glance, even when I first looked at this, I was like, oh, that dog's really ticked off. And I was like, wait a minute. Got the soft eyes, the ears are erect, and they're a little bit forward attentive, but they're not really forward like that alert posture. The body is relaxed. The dog's sitting comfortably, not leaning forward or anything like that. So I got in touch with, I think Lizzie and Rocco's who put me in touch with Katie, and she said, hey, Bella was yawning. This is a perfect example of why we have to look at the dog's entire posture, not just one thing. That's not to say you want to be careless around the dog. If I saw this dog, my first response would, like it was, okay, just kind of step back and assess the situation. And then we can look at the rest of it and say, oh, this dog is very friendly and very amicable and you know, a great dog to be around. And Katie has verified that Bella is just the sweetest dog in the world. So again, just make sure when you're looking at a dog's posture, you're taking everything into account and not just one element. Talbot was a good example, dog I used to have. He had a very deep-chested vocalizations, and when he played, he was very vocal, and he liked to bark a lot. And everybody was like, "Why is he so angry when he's playing?" And he's like, "He's not angry. That's just his voice." And you know, if you looked at the rest of his body, his tail was relaxed. He was offering play bows, and all of these things. He wasn't an angry dog. He was just very vocal, but he had a very deep voice. So, again, to re-emphasize, you have to take everything into account when you're looking at a dog's body, looking at their posture, trying to determine what they're trying to communicate. So we often hear, you know, well, if we allow these behaviors to go on, isn't that going to become a problem? The thing is, if we recognize and address these behaviors as soon as they happen, meaning if the dog starts lip licking and we stop whatever we're doing or remove that thing that is annoying them or stressing them out, they've learned that works. And so they're probably just going to stick to that and not let it progress, and then probably going to become a lot more tolerant over time. So you need to pay attention to the signals, make the dog uncomfortable, and then address the problems with either a certified trainer or a behaviorist. And I talked a little bit in the first video about trainers and where they learn their craft. The thing to keep in mind about that is a trainer, there is no regulatory board for dog trainers, so you want to be very particular about vetting, pun intended, your trainers. Find out how they train, where they get their information, what their philosophy is on training, if it's up to date and current with the research that is coming out and the current science. Behavior is a science. The other thing worth mentioning is behaviorist. That is actually a PhD education. If you go to somebody and they say, "I'm a dog behaviorist," they don't have PhD behind their name. They are not a behaviorist. I studied behavior. That's one of my favorite things to study, but I am not a behaviorist. Okay, so these are things to keep in mind as a dog owner, dog guardian, whatever term you prefer to use. These are the things to keep in mind when you're looking for a trainer. So, and then these are all my references for this particular presentation. I do, as always, want to mention my journey, where I come from and what I'm trying to tell you. A children's book that covers communication and evolution, domestication, excuse me, good conversation starter for kids. This is available at Create Space. It's also available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and several other places, but Create Space is the publisher. And I'll have some links here. So, also simple solutions for common problems. The most common training problems I'm asked about in my classes, it's in here. I'm probably, keep an eye out, I'm probably going to do some type of special 2-for-1 or discounted price for Christmas or something like that, but I'll have that information in the next video. So as always, like, comment if you have something you'd like to see me address, subscribe, and we'll get the next one out in a couple of weeks.